Hello everyone, this is the debut of a new series I'm doing on World War II aviation. It's going to be targeting specifically influential members of the Luftwaffe. I hope you all will enjoy. On April 19th, 1922, in Wiesfach, Erich Hartmann was born to a middle-class family. His father, being a young doctor, would look for practice in Germany, though, due to the influence of a cousin, would end up in China, working as a doctor there. His father opened his practice in Changsha, near the Xiang River. The Chinese paid him well, with him soon being able to bring over his two sons and wife. The family lived on an island in the middle of the river and swiftly built a home there. The two children, Alfred and Erich, loved the island, without having no restrictions to the imagination of the two. Though as seen through the Chinese Civil War, this would not last. Hartmann's family soon became the targets of anti-foreigner propaganda, with it all accumulating, and the heads of their English friends being mounted on pikes in the middle of the city. With this, Erich's father would be sending them back to Germany via the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Nearly a year later, the doctor tried to get the family to come back. Instead of complying, Frau Hartmann told him to get practice in Stuttgart. Soon, the family was reunited in Weimar, Germany. From now on, the chief interest of the young Hartmann was aviation. From then to his time on his Eastern Front, he'd be one of the brightest aviators of his age. On March 15th, 1940, Erich Hartmann had entered Training Regiment 10 in Ostpreußen. Hartmann soon had developed a deep disdain towards the military tone and parade drill, though he was forced to push past this dislike because it was the only way for him to achieve his dream. Blind obedience would never become his strong suit. Throughout his time on the Eastern Front, Hartmann would not only become the highest-scoring fighter ace of all time with 352 kills, he would also be taken into custody of the Soviets several times. The first would be when he was forced to make a landing in Soviet-held territory, where he'd fool his captors into believing he was injured, even fooling a Soviet field doctor with what he'd learned from his father. Then he escaped out the back of a truck, marching through the night. Eventually, the fighter ace would stumble upon a German base where he'd be united with Jagdgeschwader 52. The tactics of Erich Hartmann were simple yet effective, with him saying later on in an interview after the war, "If I had 2,000 meters of clearance above them, then I would come diving down with great speed, shooting them down. I would always tell my colleagues that when your windshield was filled with the enemy aircraft, that was the time to pull the trigger and shoot." His preferred method of attack was to not shoot until extremely close, 20 meters or less, then unleash a short burst at point-blank range, a technique he learned while flying as the wingman of his former commander, who favored this approach. This technique, as opposed to long-range shooting, would allow him to rarely reveal his position until the last possible moment to make up for the low velocity of the 30mm Mark 108 cannon. After World War II, Erich "Booby" Hartmann was arrested by the Soviets and sentenced to 20 years in prison due to his participation in escorting terror bombings, a tactic used by the Luftwaffe that was later adopted by the British with their bombing of Dresden. After being released by the Soviet Union, he joined the Luftwaffe once more, piloting the F-86, retiring after fights with command over the usage of the F-104 Starfighter, which he deemed to be highly unsafe. And, as time would tell, he was true with that assessment.